Bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Hi friends. Good evening. It's Monday night. Hello from beautiful Wisconsin, says Paula. Good evening. Everyone says Susan from Ohio. My friends, my name is Joette Calabrese, and we are here every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to talk about homeopathy. Teach you what I know to help you navigate the health freedom that we all crave using homeopathy. And that's how we get around doing this. Hi, Donna. Nice to see you. And so for those of you who don't know me, as I said, my name is Joette Calabrese, but for those who do, welcome my friends and cousins. It's wonderful to see everyone. It's great. Hello from Oklahoma. I'd like to hear where you're from. Please write it in there. I'd like to know where you're from. Hello from Panama. Hello. Veronique. Very nice. Nice to see you. Tom says, is it still Monday? Every day seems like Monday here lately. Glorious Monday in Oklahoma. Phyllis is in Oklahoma too. Wonderful to see you. Hi, Elizabeth. One of these days when I have more time, I'd like to jump in. I missed it into one of Wendy's groups again. Yeah, I think we're talking about the study groups. Now listen, friends, if you've been in a study group, a gateway, if you've been in Gateway 1, you should definitely go to Gateway 2. And if you've been in Gateway 1 and Gateway 2, do it again. You don't think that you're going to stop and learn just what you got from those 6-8 weeks that you studied, right? And then you're done. Oh my gosh, this is a lifelong pursuit, my friends. And you will learn more as you move on with the next group. You don't have to buy the book again. You've already got it. All you're doing is paying for a really great teacher to be your guide. And then you get to meet others. You're going to see them on Zoom. You're going to meet with them on Zoom. So if you've taken a Gateway course, take it again with that same person, whoever's running that class. By all means, that group, I should say. Yeah, because as I said, this is a lifelong pursuit. And as I just explained to one of my study groups today, I found this, especially when I was raising my kids. I used to, I washed my own diapers. No, I did not use disposable. Towards the last child, I used it from time to time. But pretty much consistently, I had cloth diapers, and I washed them myself. And I don't know if you know anything about cloth diapers. But when they're soiled, you have to dunk them into the toilet back and forth and clean off the mess and then wring them out, and then you put a little pan on it and you run to the laundry room and throw them in the wash and put them in the hot water and suds them up for the day. And so I was up to my elbows in diapers. And so because of that, my friends, I found that when it was nighttime and my kids were all in bed and the kitchen was closed, I was no longer cooking. I was no longer preparing meals. Everything was quiet. I'd get into my bed with my nightgown on, hold my book in front of me. Oh, it was my deliciously intellectual time of the day. And we as women like to do that kind of work, take care of our children, run a household, prepare foods for our children and our husband and our parents and our friends, etc. And then we also equally enjoy being able to find something that is so intellectually stimulating and also plays an important role as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend, as a teacher. And so it gives us that intellectual side to be able to study something so rich, so plentiful, and I'm going to show you how plentiful it is tonight, so historical, that has not changed for the last 200 plus years. When a child had a high fever in 1799, that was what I mean by high, 105, 106 fever. Generally speaking, belladonna was the medicine that we used. In the same medicine, high fever, in 1810, belladonna. If a child had a fever in 1860, it was belladonna. If a child had a very high fever in 1921, in 1929, in 1960, in 2021, in 2026, generally speaking, we at least consider belladonna. This is not capricious. It's not, what do I call it sometimes? Something that changes on a regular basis. This is not magpie medicine. Oh, a shiny object. Let's try this. Oh, let's look at this. No, homeopathy is steady. It stays. It's constant. And that's exactly what we want. So talking about voluminous information, I'm going to show you, because tonight we're going to be talking about depression, seasonal depression, that many people suffer from. But before I get into it too much, I want to show you this entry in the Meta Repertory by Robin Murphy. And I'm going to show you, you see that nice long column there? That says depression. These are not sentences, friends. These are all names of all the homeopathic medicines. And then it's followed through on this page as well. I didn't count each and every one, but there were about 500 to 600 remedies listed here, all in here. And you see how some of them are bold, some of them are italicized. And we have to choose from one of those medicines for depression. So what do we do about that? Holy cow. That's a lot of work. More than work. It is, what book is it? It is the Meta Repertory 4th edition by Robin Murphy. Someone will certainly write it out. And so, hi, Cindy. Miss you too. Oh, here we go. Vinod from India. Love to see people from far, far away. Hello from DC. Hello, everyone. Don't forget to like. Thank you very much. Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. Hi, Sherry. Nice to see you. Wonderful. Hello from Nashville and Portland, Oregon. Oh, thank you for telling me. Hello from my Gateway gang in North Beach, Minnesota, I think it is. Or is that Mississippi? I don't know. Am I? Hello from Chat GPT. It's always a wise guy in the group. Okay. Hello from Leslie in Kansas. And let's see where else everybody's. Colorado Springs is, I think that's Sally. Sally, I'm reading it so quickly. I'm sorry. Nebraska, Montana. It's just beautiful to see you all. Sebastian, Florida, says Donna. You know me. Yeah, I do know you. I do want to do Gateway again. I'll find always looking stuff up. Yeah, and what the beauty is that when you're looking these things up, you've got a group with which to do it, and also someone who's running the guide. Bernadette Verbecky from San Jose, California. Toronto, hi. Long Island, beautiful, beautiful. I was saying you could analyze the case with ChatGPT, I see, to help you pinpoint the remedy. Well, I'm going to tell you it's not that difficult. It looks difficult, doesn't it? Because we have so many medicines from which to choose. But I'm going to turn the page, okay? I'm going to turn the page, and we're going to find a specific rubric. I put a little dot in front of it, so you'll find it hopefully more readily. It's hard to do because it's upside down. Well, it's not upside down, but it's backwards. I don't know if you can see that right there. And right there it says, it doesn't say winter. It says cloudy weather. Depression in cloudy weather. And in that rubric, there are 6 medicines. 6 medicines. That's not a lot to choose from. And those that are bold are aurum metallicum and natrum muriaticum. Very important remedies. But I'll read the others. Ammonium carbonicum, platina, pulsatilla, and sepia. And then, of course, aurum metallicum and natrum muriaticum. So, my friends, if we look at this as a cloudy weather depression, and we must. I wish it had winter, long ailments from long winter, depression during long winter, but it doesn't. And so here we go. We have to choose between, I'll read them one more time. Depression in cloudy weather. Ammonium carbonicum, aurum metallicum, and natrum muriaticum are bold. Platina, pulsatilla, and sepia. So now what do we do with this? What do we do with this? We do have choices. We have to make our choices. Paula says, I wash my diapers too. Of course you did, Paula. Of course you did. It's so lovely. Let's see. Consistent, effective. Okay, let's see if we've got some other. Me too. With the third and the last, I thought I'd treat myself and use disposable diapers. Since we could finally afford them. Well, no such thing. She could not tolerate the chemicals. So back to the cloth. Knowing what I know now, I'm so glad you were brilliant. Absolutely. Hello from Nebraska. Yes, beautiful. I think that's Fernisha who said that. Yeah. Leanne says that book looks way underused. What page? Okay, I'll give you the page. We're on page 96. Okay, 4th edition. People are helping each other. I like to see that we've got some activity going on here. Hello from Pennsylvania and Leanne. Wonderful to see you. People are coming in. Wonderful. Love to see you. All right. Okay. Yes, get some sun, says Donna. Absolutely. It's a very important thing. And even if you live in the north, it means that even if you go out in the snow and go for a little walk and at least let your face get some sun and maybe a little bit of your neck. Of course, you have to be careful because you know when they say you can catch your death of cold? I don't think it's from a virus just happened to be passing you by and it sucks into your face. I think it's from the chill. I think it's from the weather. You get a shiver, you get a chill, and that's how we get sick. So we do have to be careful, protect our chest and our neck, but as much sun as we can get, let our hands get sun for as long as possible. And no sunscreen, ever, my friends. I don't care how light you are. My husband is light-skinned. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes. He was a semi-professional sailor. He was always out in that sun. And my friends, you're smart. You wear a hat if you're out in the sun in Florida or such. So, all right. So let's get into this. We have our choices: ammonium carbonicum, aurum metallicum, napmur, platina, pulsatilla, and sepia. Let's say that the person who has this suffering, the person who has this seasonal depression, is a mom, okay? But not just any mom. She's a mom not unlike many of you who maybe just had a child, maybe a few months ago, or has just given birth to her, or even a year ago, gave birth to her 4th child. We're going to be thinking of a medicine that befits her as much as we possibly can. And that is the medicine sepia. It's a beautiful medicine for that particular scenario. And it also happens to be a great medicine for depression, as well as depression from cloudy weather. We want to be specific when we read this, okay? From cloudy weather. So sepia is a beautiful potential medicine for a woman who's just had a child, or who had a number of children, or is going through hormonal shifts, even going into perimenopause, and she feels this depression during cloudy weather. Sepia. What about a working mom that has to take on all the masculine tasks providing? Would that mean more aurum metallicum? Yeah, that's a good point, Katie. Very an interesting point. We'll talk about that in a moment. Then there's pulsatilla. We want to consider pulsatilla too. What if it is a young girl, maybe a teenager, and she is just going into menarche, or she's now 14, 15 years old, and she has depression in cloudy weather. I'm really trying to make this as easy as possible with particular personalities. But I'm going to say that could be a very good picture. Let's go back to sepia for a minute, because sepia, although we think of sepia as a medicine that's very specific for women who are in a hormonal phase of their lives, it's also a great medicine for anyone who has headaches. Sepia is one of our great headache medicines. And so what if it's a man who has seasonal or cloudy weather depression and is someone who suffers from headaches? We might still consider sepia. Platina. Oh, I met someone who needed Platina about a year ago. I mean, sometimes you meet people and you say, oh my gosh, is that person in need of that medicine? They're often haughty and self-absorbed and don't have room for others. And so if that person if you're so inclined to be kind to that person and offer them homeopathic medicine, Platina might be the medicine that you would consider. Now I'm skirting all around. Ammonium carbonicum, another very good medicine. We could go through each of these, but then I want to go into the ones that you most are familiar with. Natrum muriaticum, great medicine for old grief. Someone who's been grieving for a long time or doesn't even think of it as grief any longer. Now they're thinking it's just who I am. They're often closed. They can be withholding of their emotions. And they have this depression, especially in cloudy weather. We might want to consider Natrum muriaticum. There's more to that medicine too. They crave salt, or sometimes they eschew salt. So salt is a condition or is an issue. There are other conditions. They get very emotional around music. I mean, I don't know who doesn't, but these people in particular can find themselves weeping over specific music, and then that can relieve them. Let's go to the one that I'm thinking most of, and that was brought up just a moment ago, about a working mom that has to take on all the masculine tasks providing. Would that mean more aurum metallicum? Aurum metallicum, one of our great all-time medicines that is very specific for depression. It's often a very masculine medicine. In fact, I just worked with a group today, one of my study groups, and a woman was talking about someone in her life who was not able to get his wife pregnant. And so there was a great deal of concern. Of course there is. And so the first medicine I think of, I don't know if it's the exact answer, but it's the first medicine I think of, is aurum metallicum. Aurum. Sound familiar? Gold. It's made from gold. And metallicum, of course, is the metal. Gold metal. It is gold. In other words, the gold is brought to the pharmacy, the homeopathic manufacturing pharmacy, and they triturate it and they grind it down, and they use is it shards of gold? I don't know if it would be shards. It would be shavings of gold, and mix it with alcohol and make this homeopathic medicine that is one of our best medicines for depression. Now, it doesn't have to be depression that's seasonal to consider aurum metallicum. It can be depression from loss of a loved one. It could be depression from just for no reason at all that doesn't seem like it's associated with anything. But let's get back to that question. As Katie said, she said, what about a working mom that has to take on all the masculine tasks and providing? Would that mean more aurum metallicum? It could mean that. Now, aurum metallicum is very often very specific for men, but I'm going to tell you, I've taken it myself. Sometimes it's from too much responsibility, and I have felt that. Years ago, I had an aunt who was my godmother, and she was in need of my help. And so was her husband, my uncle. And so were my clients. And so were my parents. And so were my students, and especially my children and my husband, and everybody needed my help. It seemed like it was all at once. Now, was it any different than any other time? Probably not. But it hit me when I started to help my aunt and my uncle. It hit me, oh my gosh, this is an enormous amount of responsibility. Am I up to this? I wanted to help them, of course, but I felt overwhelmed. And frankly, it felt like some sort of, I don't know if I'd call it depression, but it was a, I want out of here. This is too much. Now, I called a friend of mine who was a more seasoned homeopath than I was at that time. This was a good, let's see, how long ago could this have been? 25 years ago? something like that. And I called him up and I said, I'm not right. I've lost my joie de vivre. I'm fatigued. I don't really want to work, and that's not like me. I love my work. I love my work as a mother. I love my work as a wife. I love my work as a daughter, as a homeopath, as a teacher. I enjoy life, and I bite off as much as I possibly can chew. But I lost that at that time. And he said this, Joette, come on. It's aurum metallicum. And he said it like that because it was so obvious to him. Now, because I was the one suffering, it wasn't obvious to me. And that happens all the time, my friends. Our brains turn to mush when it's us ourselves, when it's our own conditions. Now, when it's someone else, we can see it more readily. But for myself, I just couldn't see it. 1 dose. Aurum metallicum 200C made me as right as rain. Excuse me, that particular day and the days following. I really didn't need more than a dose, as I recall. If I did need more than one, it was only one more, but it was in very short order. And I want to mention to you, friends, that I don't want you to think that these homeopathic medicines always work that quickly. I remember these particular cases because they worked so quickly. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it always does. So I don't want your expectations to be that it must always work that way. If not, it must be I must have chosen incorrectly. No, there are many times when we really need to follow up and follow up and follow up, etc. So, aurum metallicum is for someone who has a lot of responsibilities, whether they're masculine responsibility or even female responsibilities. Now, if they're female, and we're going to weigh a little bit more heavily, more towards the mothering side, then we might be considering more like Sepia 200. But if it's not, and it's more like responsibilities to clients and students and other family members, then we're going to be thinking possibly of aurum metallicum. And so Shanna says, I tried aurum metallicum and it did not help me. Well, and that indeed could be because it's one of these other medicines. We want to think about natural muriaticum. And I don't want you, also, my friends, I'm going to caution you. Just because I'm telling you that aurum metallicum is a very good choice, sepia is a very good choice for another situation, please open up your materia medica and read the medicine. Read up on it before you take it. Will it do harm if you take the wrong medicine? No. But how will you learn this if you only go by what I tell you? I want you to read the medicine so that I've taught you, you're learning it. You go to the book, Materia Medica, and there are a couple of them are free. You could go to My Materia Medica, or you could go to any Materia Medica online that's free. Or if you've got books or you own books, go to your Materia Medica and read about it. That's how you're going to learn this. That's how it's going to fit next time for you or someone else. Yeah. It knocked out deep grief that was causing pain too. Yes, Janine, I'm delighted that you said that. There can be pain associated with this. Pain and depression. Yes. Okay. Ignatia, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. Yeah, Ignatia could be useful too. But Ignatia's not here. It is in here. When we turn back the page and we look at all the medicines for depression that I showed you, Ignatia is definitely there. So is gelsemium, so is lachesis. These are all the bold and underlined remedies. Of course, aurum is bold and underlined. I'm back on this page with all of these medicines. It's hard to do backwards right here. All of these medicines. Okay, so I'll read some of the others. Aconitum, calcarb, carcinosin, simicifuga, chamomilla, gelsemium, calibromatum, lachesis, lilium tigrum, mercurius, nat sulf. Listen to these. Veratrum albums, again, sepia, bold and underlined, stana metallicum. These are all medicines that could be also considered when we turn the next page and we look at cloudy weather, we don't see a shift after having used the medicines. Now, I use these generally in a 200, and I would not use them that frequently. I might use them maybe every third day, or metallicum every 3 days, natural muriaticum 200 every 3 days. I might do the same for any of the others. Pulsatilla 200 every 3 days. Why? Because I'm using a pattern. This is what I teach in my mastery year after the first year of the academy. I teach patterns. And the pattern that I'm trying to teach you is that when you see a medicine that is used in this potency, let's say or metallicum, and it's used every third day, then when we're going to be using natrum muriaticum, then why not pattern that in the same fashion for the same condition and the same potency? Let's not try to come up with new ideas. Listen, I'm open to ideas, but let us choose based on what we already know and latch on to that and start with that information. Let's start with that. I tried pulsatilla for my pup's ear infection. It helped a little bit, but then he herself got rid of it. Yeah, and listen, when we say, I used this medicine and it didn't work, let me just help you rephrase that. I used this medicine and I needed to move on. I needed to go on to another medicine. When we have thousands of medicines from which to choose, we don't expect a medicine to always work. But by giving the so-called wrong medicine, it opens up the case so now you can observe it more readily. When my father passed away, I took Ignatia. Didn't touch it. I used it many times. Didn't touch it. It was extremely trying for me. When I took or metallicum, it touched it a little bit. But then I wasn't sleeping. And or metallicum is also beautiful for depression when it's coupled with coffea 200. So or metallicum every 3 days in addition to coffea 200 twice a day. Once I took that coffea 200, I firmed up. I woke up the next morning and I said, oh, okay, we have to take care of Mom now. What are we going to do? Let's move forward. We have to arrange for a funeral. We've got to move forward. Until that moment in time, until I took the Orm and then followed by coffea 200C, I was, how do I say, a basket case. I was useless to my entire family. And my mother needed me. My brother needed me. My husband. We all needed each other. That is the depression protocol. Thank you, Fernicia. That is a Banerjee protocol. I want to always give them credit when credit is due. That is the Banerjee protocol, or metallicum 200C and coffea 200C. It is a beautiful protocol. Having said that, I always used or metallicum long before I met the Banerjees and never considered adding coffea 200. And had I stayed with just or metallicum during that time, that trying time around my father's passing, I would probably have been disappointed. But it wasn't until the Banerjees taught me to use a 200C of coffea that it not only addressed it but finished it off in a day, less than a day. Donna M says, Joette, a homeopath told me to only ever use 1 dose of Natmur, classical homeopathy. It made me afraid to repeat it. Well, that's the way classical homeopathy works, to use only 1 dose. But let's say this. Let's say we're thinking Natmur 200 every 3 days. You use the medicine Natmur 200 on, say, Sunday. How does the person feel on Monday and Tuesday? And then you assess, does the person need another dose on Wednesday? Why not? If they're still suffering, repeat it. If they're better, then we don't need to repeat it. So we're always looking, we're pivoting, and we're looking for that tipping point so that we know at what point do we add another dose. Leela says, I tried Ignatia 200 after my son started having seizure. It only barely helped. But then I started phosphoric acid 30 every 3 hours. That was what firmed me up. Well put, firmed you up, yes. Phosphoric acid is another very good one for the grief that a mother might experience. You probably were feeling tremendous fatigue. Let's just see what else we've got. Thank you for saying I'm a good teacher. I love teaching this. I mean, this is my delicious thing to do. Sheila says, from Washington State, those patterns are empowering. Thank you, Joette. That's a gold nugget. It will help you a great deal. Let's see what else we've got here. Or Metallicum, best protocols for fatty liver, grade 2. Well, let me just say, we're not going to talk about fatty liver here, but I will tell you that if you're a Mighty member, I don't know if you are, stay on with Mighty members and you can ask those kinds of questions there. Is there one for springtime depression? No, there isn't, Savannah, not particularly in this rubric. Now, you can look in other sections of the book under times of the year and cross-section for depression and then look at springtime. But if you're going to look at very specific protocol, or excuse me, a specific rubric, and for a specific time or condition, then this is the rubric you want to use. Because if you're talking about spring, is it cloudy in the spring where you are? Or is it sunny in the spring? And that would make the difference. What about carcinosin for over-responsibility and change of weather extremes? Yes, Boris. Yes, absolutely. Very good choice. Yes. Okay, what else do we have here? Would you say that salt craving is very specific to Netmure? Can be, but they bottle up their emotions and no tears. Yes, unless, like you said, if listening to a good piece of music. What other rubric is specific to Netmure? A closed feeling, a person who does not give any information about their lives. They're not willing to share, especially share about those issues that are super sensitive, such as grief. What component of depression does kafia target? I don't know how to answer that. I don't know that we think in terms of components, Boris, or that perhaps it's me, that I don't think in terms of components. What aspect of kafia? I don't know. Central nervous system? It's hard to say. I don't know that I can answer, but I'm going to give it some thought now that you've brought that up. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, Leanne says it's a carcinosin world. You're right, Leanne. Yeah. Noreen says on page 2535, weather, change of, could be. Hello from Deborah in Wichita. It's a teenager has suicidal ideation. Is it wrong to suggest Orem 200 twice a day? Now, that's a very good point. When we have something that is super concerning, such as that, we do want to consider this medicine in a slightly different fashion. Let's see. Racing thoughts. Thank you, Leanne. Now, I wonder about those racing thoughts. Racing thoughts of depression could be. Yeah, could be. I'm taking kafia for a skin rash. Yeah, for itching. Kafia is great for itching as well. And I used it with Orem when a woman wouldn't stop thinking, one woman couldn't stop thinking about ways to avoid thinking about offing herself. Yes, there we go. Tossing about in anguish, says Fernisha. That's what kafia says in Murphy's Materia Medica. Anguish. There you go. Thank you very much, Fernisha. I was in anguish. That's the word to describe it. I was suffering horribly. Okay, so we're going to go now. We're going to go right to our mighties. Yes. Perry, you're all ready when I'm ready. And for those of you who are my mighties, stay with me and we'll go over more questions. Looking forward to it. See you later, friends. Bye.